Hello, America. This is Call Duty Goddess. Today is April 4th, 2016. I have sort of a part two to the interview that I did with Michael Emry and Vicky Davis. I'm at TVOI News right now, the voice of Idaho, and I just want to show you that they are not corporately controlled and they need your support. They could also use some sponsors. So if you need some advertising, please give them a call. And they also have TVOI News, the voice of North Idaho, and they've just started the voice of Grant County, Oregon. I'll leave all the links below. Vicky Davis's websites are the Technocratic Tyranny and Channeling Reality. I'll leave the links for those as well. So let's get started with this interview. I noticed during a lot of the times with them all your wildlife occupation and the opposition on YouTubers and other YouTubers out there saying it's a psych op and crap and saying all kinds of stuff, and then you got the other YouTubers, they're making YouTubers back and forth about each other. What is your opinion on that? Is there a way that you can think of to solve that, or what do you think they should do?
Well, all I can go is by the information at hand, and I'll make this real brief. Uh, as a veteran and some of my friends that were also looking at this, that were combat vets, we exposed the most insane discohesion campaign we could possibly think of. The unprofessionalism of throwing away your outbound security or was insane. And we were going, this is destined for destruction. This is, because so long story short, we started looking at Rickheimer to wonder why he was pushing away anybody that was outbound security. And I was under an investigation with my news to try to find out, to get to the bottom of the truth. And I was introduced to Anthony Bosworth, and he expounded it to a viminous effect, but I knew that he was very intelligent. Why? And he expounded that he was a super soldier and all this other stuff and security advisor, so she should know better. Well, that just kind of set to the wayside. The Malheur Wildlife Refuge, of course, Lavoy Finnegan was killed, murdered, I should say. And I found out on the day of Lavoy's death, Anthony Bosworth came down to the Narrows restaurant and campground and met with some people we suspected to be feds. And sure enough, I have evidence that they are from the ATF. And I have that evidence. And we have been asking Anthony Bosworth to come forward to answer some of these questions. The only thing that I have gotten back was a response from CALS, and I'll make it brief here in a minute, expressing what they said to us. But at 4:10, 4:20, Anthony Bosworth got a phone call and rushed out of there. And within an hour, just about everybody was off the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, almost by force. Now, then we get a response back from CALS, Coalition of Western States. Now, I got on Scott Bennett's program, and he's former Army intelligence, and they set him up. And then Stephen Damron is a combat veteran that was kind of digging around at my request to find out and get to the bottom of why this discohesion was going on. Anyways, so we got on the program and expressed our concerns about Anthony Bosworth, and we got a response from CALS, Coalition of Western States, to armypsyops@outlook.com, and he doesn't mind that out there. To whom it may concern, we're contacting you regarding a very regrettable episode of your podcast. We learned of a guest you recently interviewed and were shocked and appalled by the slanderous false statements about a delegate we recently commissioned to liaison with us. That delegate is Anthony Bosworth. The Coalition of Western States, CALS, has worked tirelessly to seek intervention on behalf of the Hammonds to avoid them returning to prison. Furthermore, Since the Malheur Wildlife Refuge takeover on January 2nd, we have worked diligently with legislators, citizens, community leaders, and corresponded with the FBI to seek a peaceful resolution so that we could preserve life, bring an end to that chapter, and prepare for the battlefield of the courts. Oh, wow. The legislators and the court of public opinion. Sorry, Anthony Bosworth was instrumental in facilitating the safe passage of all who wish to leave the refuge after Lavoy Finnegan was killed. At our request, he facilitated discussions between FBI negotiators, legislators within CALS, and patriots at the refuge. The notion that he was part of an elaborate operation to undermine and divide the patriots by the federal government or anyone else is appalling. We consider Anthony Bosworth to be an asset to the coalition of Western states, who is a patriot of the highest caliber, and to be candid, we are very suspicious of the motives of the individual you had on as your guest. Who insinuated, accused Mr. Bosworth of the spontaneous betrayal of his fellow countrymen. Now, Mr. Bosworth continues to hold our trust, and we hold him in the highest esteem. Our hope is that you will make the proper corrections to your investigative story in which he was so maliciously maligned. He is highly regarded patriot by us and one who has repeatedly earned and reaffirmed our confidence. I hope that we can correct this unfortunate episode and put it behind us so that we all together can move forward in the case of freedom and liberty. Very sincerely, Representative Matt Shea. All right. And we have sent him several responses back and nothing. Now,
Michael,
yeah,
keep that page up. I'd like screen prints of that, because I know that what attorneys do when they want to have a case brought to court, a lot of times they will set up a case. And the reason why I know that is because I have a friend who did that. She drove around trying to get a ticket so that her lawyer could file a lawsuit in court. And it had to do with real ID or something. I forget exactly what the issue was, but that's the way they do these cases, is that they get either, I guess, apparently maybe set somebody up, or they have somebody volunteer to do something so that they can then take it to court. And they actually are very careful about setting it up in such a way that they can argue on the basis that they want to argue.
well,
So
all is that this situation right here is a classic case of creating a situation for an outcome that's beneficial. And that outcome that they were looking for, I suspect, was a firefight that they controlled. I suspect that they wanted to push the Patriots into a firefight because after Lavoy's death, there were 4 individuals, and it was the most. The Oregonian was involved. Anthony Bosworth was involved, apparently, and the individuals were left weren't of any of the same caliber that was on the wildlife refuge. They were the best provocateurs you can imagine. I am beside myself. The night before they finally got the 4 off of the refuge, I watched this buildup get stronger and stronger and stronger. I was telling people not to come here, that it's a setup, that those guys are at the very minimum bait. And the night before, I was live streaming telling people to stand down because idiots were calling saying Burns, Oregon was locked down, and that this one guy couldn't even get out of his driveway, and they had him at gunpoint, which wasn't true. And then he backpedaled from that. You see, I mean, I mean, it's a miracle that there wasn't uh, a civil war out of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as that goes, the last four standing, in my mind, I'm convinced from the first couple videos he made that he was a psych op. And they got exactly what they wanted out of it. They got Bundy. They got Papa Bundy. And that's exactly what they wanted out of those four.
I'll tell you this much. I like hundreds of other people went down to the refuge, and it was clean as a pin. And all of the damage that could have been created was created after they killed the boy. And those four that were left, there's one individual you don't hear anything about. Okay, you don't hear anything about these people. I got to say that I believe that it was a full-on operation by cows from the very get-go.
Wow, that's a big deal. And now you were, what was your job? Who were you embedded with, and how long were you, what was the time that you became fully embedded with them, the people that you were embedded with in there as a reporter?
Okay, what happened was is that we were interested in the Hammond case. I was conversing and did a couple of interviews with Hammond Bundy, and so there was to be a rally and supported the Hammonds. And also, what I understood was is after the rally, everyone was to go. There's enough people to go to the fairgrounds, and they already had a committee of safety, and they were going to vote in a grand jury of investigation because they did all the proper steps. Look, no matter which way you flip the biscuit, a redress of grievances, due process of law. They just, in 1946, they said, well, it's antiquated. We're just not going to use it anymore. There's no laws. They just put out a memo. It is still the last resort the public has when a court system has exhibited harmful intent to the public and has committed crimes. And through that redress of grievance, by the way, we have every single paper from 1977 up of an amazing amount of a harmful intent and co-option and outright crimes committed by officials. So my job was to be an embedded reporter to report on what was going on from the side of the Patriots and also of the 3% to show that they didn't have any harmful intent. I have a video up. I don't know if I wasn't able to get it up. But I did a video of the meeting the day before, and the only objection that anybody had in the town was Rick Heimer and another individual, because they had put such they'd put out some stuff that was kind of threatening and stuff, and they were worried about the Patriots or the militia becoming violent. And by the time the meeting was over with, everybody was like, oh, cool. Okay.
So I'm going to interrupt you just for a second because I want to make sure I heard you right. So before uh, Eamon and then came for, and you guys had the get together, so to speak, for the Hammonds before they were supposed to go to jail. Before all that happened, they put together a grand jury or whatever and started the regress of grievances before the takeover of the wildlife refuge?
Well, there was already a redress of grievance submitted to Sheriff Ward, to the governor, to Grassy, and everybody at 2 months before that rally. And they had enough time. About 3 weeks before that rally, federal authorities came in and the school was I don't think the school was closed yet. They emptied the jailhouse and sent everybody everywhere. There was feds running around. There was police officers threatened by supposedly ATF, or I mean not ATF. That's probably who it was. supposedly patriots. And Chris Briles exposed that midway through the Malheur wildlife occupation that they were FBI agents because he caught them. There was nothing but the only harmful intent that came out came from the federal government. I did a video called Nightlife in Burns, Oregon. Nightlights of Burns, Oregon. I don't know if you've seen that.
No. Huh.
Okay, you go to our YouTube channel, and I went up there, and in the middle of downtown down here, they have these spotlights and barricades and guys with machine guns and stuff. And the only threat that anybody could see was coming from law enforcement or FBI. And in the meetings throughout that process, even out of Ward and Grassie's mouth, they said, well, we don't see any threat from the militia. We just want you to go home. We have our own voice. That was the narrative of the day. The businesses out here made so much money. They're all talking about they wish that the thing was still going on because there wasn't a hotel, a restaurant, or anything else that wasn't making just a huge amount of money.
Right. So, I mean, see, that's amazing to me, really, that before the takeover, 2 months before the takeover, and to me, that just it changes the paradigm in my mind because this is the first time finding this out. 2 months before the Malheur Wildlife takeover, a redress of grievance was filed with Sheriff Ward and all the other people that need to know. So they all saw all this coming, and then that's where the thing comes in about the keys and the door being open. So
they knew that that Ammon Bundy was planning on taking the wildlife refuge because that operation for the wildlife refuge was a psyops, an operation to sucker him into it. And I'm going to tell you, someone within CALS was helping encourage it. I don't know the full truth on all that, but I can tell you right now they knew, and Ammon Bundy expressed that himself, that they knew that they were coming. They even found a letter. The keys were laying on the desk. The doors were left open.
wow. And then you read in the Oregonian, you hear coming out of Sheriff Dave Ward's mouth, out of that governor's mouth, that they broke in, that they were militants, which is an outright lie. That's why I put their faces on my intro with lie written under their faces. Because I'm tired of the lies. I really am.
The
Wow.
reason that happened was because they had committed so many crimes with the Hammonds, and the people were so disgusted, they were stepping up to the plate, and they couldn't have Grassie or the rest of these boobs exposed. All the way back to 77. A lot of the people were the most pronounced in support of Grassie or Ward's had vested interest. Maybe somebody in their family had worked way back then, and their benefit and their inheritance came from criminal activity. You see, it's a group, it's a club. I call it a covenant of evil.
Yeah, you look at the cave there.
Right? It's a very large organized crime syndication out here. And those are the only people that support Ward or Grassie or any of the rest of these people. Did you know that there was someone, and I don't have his name in front of me, but worked for the Wildlife Refuge, that got caught rustling cows, and that his wife, when it was exposed that he was rustling cows and stuff, gave free beef from the stolen cows to the public, and that was supposed to be homage.
Oh my God, I saw, oh my gosh, on social media, one of Les Zates or Zates, I call him Zates, I'll call him whatever the hell I want. I don't give a shit if I say his name wrong. Anyway, sorry. I saw somebody posting about that on there. Oh, and they had the most horrific photos of Lavoy Finicum And oh, it was just enough to make you sick. These people are, you're right, they're evil. They're pure evil.
What it is that, folks, you have to realize that evil does exist. That um, these people believe Lucifer is light, and that it's an evil covenant, a club, and we're not in it, and that it's endorsed criminality to the highest of level. He goes, and I almost think that Grassy's probably related to Harry Reid. I mean, they really look a lot alike. Who knows?
Wow. That's
I don't. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm just kind of looking at it, thinking they like to keep it in the family. So who knows? I'd like to know, and somebody out there that can do that. I'd like somebody to dig in Grassy's family tree. And it's funny, like Obama's related to um, um,
Bush. Isn't he related to Bush too? Like a
yeah,
ninth
yeah,
cousin removed or something?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I mean, look, this is like some bizarre Batman movie or something. Okay, you got people like Cash Carry, Bernanke, uh, holder of the information. I mean, these. It's like a comic strip.
It is. It's
The,
so unbelievable.
the
It
truth,
is.
the most amazing thing. Forget the lies, folks. You want to be entertained? Just lay the cards on the table. It's the most interesting game in town.
I know, and my husband's a big fan of reality TV, and it's like, wow, just look at life, look at the truth. I mean, you don't need to watch reality TV. Oh,
Well, okay. Um, as far as I'm concerned, I've given ample amount of time for Anthony Bosworth to respond. And the only response I have gotten from him is, Michael, this is what he said, Michael, give me your best shot. Well, Mr. Bosworth, I'm going to call it as I see it. You are a traitor to this nation. You have committed grievous acts of harmful intent to your fellow countrymen, and you are on the short end of the stick.
so when did you get that email? How much time have you given him to respond?
It was sent Friday, March 4th.
Oh, wow. He's had a month to respond?
That was when the cows sent that. I have been asking this question since a week after the boy's death to Anthony Bosworth, because I found out a week after his death. I got the information. I have the direct photos of the receipts from the individuals that were staying at the at the Narrows campground. By the way, there was a combat medic team that set up a tent that no one wanted to work with because of this discohesion that was coming from Anthony Bosworth and Rickheimer. And when I told people, when I walked down through there to talk to regular people, they didn't know anything about it. And they said, "My God, they're nobody helping them." I said, "Those guys are about ready to go home because no one wants to work with them." They actually had comm ready. They wanted to make sure that there was eyes and ears out there, so and medical aid in case somebody got hurt. Because, by the way, Ward would not allow any EMTs within quite a few miles from the refuge.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's outrageous.
Yes, and that's why these medical teams came out there. These guys were qualified combat medics with a medical aid station with a red cross on their tent. They watched these people that Anthony Bosworth talked to poking cameras out and just kind of staying by themselves. Individuals kind of pulling in and out.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video how they had set it up and Yeah, I think they had two tents, didn't they?
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, that's incredible. So this Bosworth guy, how long did he? When did he first arrive there? Was he there before you arrived?
I did not ever see him until Chris Ann Hall got here. And he was the security guy with Chris Ann Hall. And everything, there was still some communication back and forth with the 3%, the Oath Keepers, and all these other people, even with Rickheimer doing his stuff. But when Anthony Bosworth got there, things started changing. I didn't know he was talking to people coming down there, but apparently he was. But he was making a very visible attempt to be security with Chris Ann Hall. He was taking, and I watched him take his arms to once each side of the guy's shoulder, move him a foot away from the door or something like that. Just a very artificial, I'm in charge type of thing. Everybody was making fun of him, laughing at him, really, especially the combat vets. They're like, "You're a joke. You got to be kidding me, you fobbit."
Wow. So
Huh?
did he kind of take over? But because I thought like Brandon Curtis, maybe there was, I don't know, maybe I'm confused. Uh, I guess Bosworth was embedded on the inside and Brandon Curtis was in the town. Is that how it went?
Well, Brandon Curtis did not want people to come down and stay at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. What he wanted to do, and what all of the patriots wanted to do, is provide a external layer of protection so there would never be another Waco. It was basically a protest that Ammon Bundy was doing, and so that's why the 3% and everyone else was out there for outbound security to keep everybody safe, to make sure that there's level playing field. But from the time I seen it really change from the time Chris Ann Hall got here with Anthony Bosworth getting here, and there was no communication. You couldn't. I not once could meet with Ammon Bundy personally, privately, because he was shuttled away every time I tried.
Wow. So
There
when
were
did when did Chrissy and Hall get in there?
about 4 weeks before, 3 weeks. No, no one even that. Was it about 3 weeks before LeBoy's death? It was about 3 weeks before LeBoy's death.
Wow.
No, I'm not saying anything against Chris Ann Hall and or the majority of the people with cows. But I have another question, and I am directing that solely to Matt Shea. Mr. Shea, I respectfully request a call from you, an email, and let's get to the bottom of this, because it's very concerning to me that you can't see the obvious of at the very minimum, and you think that Anthony Bosworth's such a great security officer. There's not a combat vet that I know that isn't looking at him very harshly, because his actions are the actions of a buffoon, of a person that does not understand what it takes to keep a FOB, a camp. The Malheur Wildlife Refuge was nothing but a FOB, a forward observation base, if you want to call it that. It was, or anything else. It was still you always have to have outbound security. Sometimes they call it 3-tier security, as a matter of fact, for the best of them. And the worst thing you'll ever want to do is push away your outbound security, because no camp is ever safe without it. And for that kind of action from anyone is repugnant, and is an insult to anybody that knows what it means to have to be in those environments. And anybody that exhibits that kind of attitude in the field usually doesn't come home, because they're the ones that end up having to be put down by their own men. And so they,
Absolutely. And quite logically, for this man to send you an email telling what an upstanding person Bosworth was when you were embedded there and witnessed his behavior over and over and over again, and the man writing the email wasn't even there. What, was he ever there? Am I
I,
wrong?
I think that Shea had come in and out. I don't know. Matt Shea had been involved with the Bundy Ranch, and so he kind of created cows. I with this that letter that he sent, I've given it enough time, and we've given countless. Scott Bennett and many others have given countless requests to respond with the evidence we have. We got some more evidence, by the way, Mr. Shea and Anthony Bosworth. So, you know, we're going to go forward because you've had ample time, and I guess you're guilty. And this is the first time I've said this. I've given reasonable doubt, just a reasonable, hey, maybe there's something you can come up and tell me that will make sense. But with your silence, no, no. We pretty much know. We're not stupid.
You guys, they were setting up a case. After I have been listening to this, they were setting up a case, and they used Ammon Bundy and the other people down there to do it. And I don't know if Lavoy Finicum knew about it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But just from the behavior of, and the way Michael describes it, the difference between what real military people do or law enforcement do and what Bosworth did, working with Chris Ann Hall, I'm absolutely convinced that they were setting up a case to take to court. And so now these guys are in jail. So it's not a civil action, it's a criminal action. So anyway, that's what I think.
Well, I'd like to expand on this. They had when they murdered Lavoy, they had to have some sense of understanding and eyes on the ground, and the removal of anyone that could cause them harm. Anthony Bosworth facilitated that removal before anyone knew what was going on. I rolled out there to find out what was going on as a reporter about 2.5 hours after the fact, when it was just turning dark. And everybody was gone. There was 2 individuals I never seen that were very soldiery, which I found out later. One of them was very physical in getting people to leave. They said, you only got a certain amount of time. You got to leave now or else. The only people who were left were squirrels. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes. And so there was a friend of mine that didn't know anything about what was going on down there. And I picked him up. And so anyways, Vicky is right, because this is what concerns me. When they started talking about, the time from January 2nd on, it's just, here's another thing that's a problem. At Lavoy's funeral, we were coming back and we had dinner with these 2 people that were members of PALS, and they loved the Coalition of Western States. And when I expressed my concerns about Anthony Bosworth, after I'd found out this evidence just before his funeral, they were aghast. They said, well, we know Anthony, he's such a great person. I said, well, all I know is the evidence that I have, and I have some questions to ask him. And I had to watch Anthony Bosworth be the lead security at Lavoy's funeral. You know that?
That's amazing. Wow. I
I
mean,
had to watch him standing there directing traffic, and he ignored me. And he knew I was there. He seen me, and I just, you know, I never. If it was a different world, maybe the Wild West, things would have been a little different. Um, Mr. Bosworth is an insidious troll. His actions speak of a troll when he talked to me around the campfire, looking for straw man arguments, and I watched him spin people and actually start attacking me when I mentioned outbound security, and he immediately went into a demonization of anyone that was outbound security, and kind of like we're part of this team and they're not part of our team, so what are you saying? That kind of action, that kind of attitude, is that the type of attitude that a soldier would have?
no,
When
that's divide and conquer.
that's a dividing mechanism, classic psyops, and I am no fool. I can be a fool, I have been a fool, but I'm not a fool on this.
So is Bosworth still at the Finicum or Bundy's or Hammond? Where is Bosworth now?
Well, from all indications, he's still working, helping with security with Finnegan's wife.
They must want that land in a bad way.
No, they've still got an operation going on, and they are monitoring everything. There's eyes and ears around all of the patriots that are closest to them, and I can't even mention some of the names I suspect. Okay, right now, because I don't want to start something that I don't have full evidence on.
Right. I think we all suspect someone here and there that a lot of people may trust. I understand exactly what you're saying.
I would like a response from Cope Reynolds. I'd like to talk with Cope Reynolds because he's the one that assigned, since he knows so much about security, okay, quote unquote, with the type of actions that Bosworth has has committed, at the very very minimum, incompetence, uh, vicious incompetence. Why would Cope Reynolds want him to continue to be a security asset? This is my concern. Now I know Cope Reynolds has been a friend of the family of the voice for quite a few years, but I just have some questions, and I'm asking. Maybe Cope Reynolds can clear this up, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing that would explain it all. So that's all I'm asking. Why don't you come on forward and have a talk with me and some of our team?
Have you tried reaching out to him?
Yeah.
See, and the crickets, that the silence is just speaks louder than anything to me. And wow, Vicky Davis, this thing about the trying to start a court thing, it really makes sense. Everything fits together when you think of it in that way.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. And it just never would have crossed my mind until I listened to what Michael had to say, the whole sequence of events. And I, I, I would just bet money on it that that's the deal. And so um, I hope, I hope the investigation goes that far into it, um, and that it might help exonerate Ammon Bundy and those guys because they were set up. I mean,
The, rest assured that I'm just a small potato compared to some of the guys that are looking into this right now.
mhm.
And so yeah, it's a process. But right now, it's not looking very good for cows.
Yeah, I mean, and they send that email. That's really some brass ones, in my opinion, to send something like that, um, with not being there nearly as much as you or any of the witnesses that were there, to send that email and then no response, none. And how many emails did you send them?
I think that there has been, through Scott Bennett, 5, 6 formal requests.
Wow.
There has been a total of about 5 interviews talking about this.
Wow. That's
I can
incredible.
send you the last one with Scott Bennett, and you ought to use some of that. I was able to explain some things pretty clear. My wife, I think she'll send you that interview with Scott Bennett and Stephen.
I have it.
Okay. Had you listened to it yet?
I almost got through it all. I always get interrupted. That's a very long interview. Very, very, very informative, though.
You know, I'm just a humble guy that's trying to do my best, and I'm thankful for Vicky and Becky and Jeff Wright with Naval Intelligence and NSA. He's not been working too much with us, but he's helped along the path, and all of the technical people that have come and gone and still in the woodwork. All the writers, my goodness, 20 some odd writers that just poured their heart and soul out. Um, just a labor of love. And I got to say that it gives me hope, and everyone out there should have hope because we've won. We just got to get through this transition, and it's a harsh one because all the way to through our financial structure and everything, there's not a single place that is not contaminated by the stench of these monsters.
No, and that's what's gonna suck. I mean, we've all gotten quite accustomed to living a certain way, and that's not gonna, it's gonna have to change for us to become a better country. We can't live like this.
Well, a better world. Thank you very much for the internet because the world is waking up. Look, I'd like to make a mention about the Civil War. Did you know that the reason there was such a discohesion between the North and the South was because of the press and the media? And that the press and the media was putting stuff in the South, and the North was putting stuff up so that they would create an infighting between the representatives that created the war because they weren't talking about the truth. There was one entity working both those papers on each side of the fence. And it created the Civil War because if the people from the North actually were able to see the truth and the people of the South were able to see the truth, there was half truths on both sides.
Right. And the power of the press. People don't really think about that kind of power. They really have power. Well, people give them power over their minds, total control many times.
Okay, you go to work, you till the fields, you finally get a chance to go to the barber shop or wherever you went, and you open up the paper, and you have time to read that, and you trust that they're reporting the news. It's the news. They're reporting the truth. Well, it's an insidious psyops that's been going on since the foundation of this nation. And that's why we have to have committees of correspondence to vet this information with a stamp of approval on it. That's a consensus from the Court of Public Opinion. The Court of Public Opinion is voted already on all of this. You can't go on a comment section with having a drove of people attack the Oregonian. But they still survive? Excuse me.
Yeah, it's got to be our taxpayers' dollars or something similar.
Well, it has to be, look, common sense. Truth is truth. I like to use this analogy. somebody will use a straw man argument. Oh, you've seen this on the internet. Well, if you want to find out what's in a battery, I tell you there's sulfuric acid in that battery, and you tell me no, there's not. There's vinegar in it. I'm like, you're an idiot. If you think that that's the case, I have the evidence right in front of me. It is sulfuric acid. Here's the periodic table of it, and I have multiple evidence on that. And you continue to say there's vinegar in it. That's what the Oregonian is doing. That's what this mainstream, if you want to call them mainstream, this dinosaur media, these criminals, they're the ones that need to be locked up, because
Right.
they're the ones that lie to people that have no time in their day but to open up a paper and say, okay, that's what's going on. I got to go back to work. See, not all of us need to be soldiers. There's bakers, and there's mechanics, and there's people that mow lawns, and there's some people of higher intelligence and lower intelligence, but that honor-bound duty to report the news properly is the greatest of sin, to not report the truth to the best of your ability. And Oregonian, you whores, you monsters, you criminals, you're the ones that need to go to jail quicker than anyone, because you've misinformed the public. There is no greater treason than that.
Oh, there's more in it for that weasel piece of crap. Oh, yeah. He's not just doing it, just to do it to be nice.
No, he's part of the club. Okay,
Yeah.
we're not in it. It's organized crime at the very minimum. And there are laws on the books called RICO that they're in direct violation of, because lives are at stake. There's political hitmen in every single one of these mainstream papers that just destroy some good person, digging and digging until they find something to discredit them in the court of public opinion, and then they can remove them. I think we all can find countless cases.
So, thanks again, guys, and maybe we can talk again soon.
Great, Goddess. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks a lot. Good night, everybody.
Good night. This is Call of Duty Goddess signing off, and as always, I've got your 6.